Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Anthony Hennon. Today's episode, we are talking the perennial issue, it seems, of Pennsylvania's voter laws, specifically voter ID. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor, Kristen Smith. Kristen, there seems to be a new plan afoot to try to work out something on voter ID lines. What's happening, and does this have a chance of passing?
House Republicans are hoping to shake loose a constitutional amendment that would enact universal voter ID across the state. This is something that has been incredibly popular among Republicans for many years now. And there's been some attempts in the last couple of years to make it happen. But the problem is that it's quite often folded into a quote unquote poison pill of legislation that would force Republicans to exchange voter ID for other policies that they really dislike. The most recent effort of which was last October, when House Democrats had put forth a bill that included universal voter ID, but also would make a lot of other election changes. And Republicans felt that it was happening way too close in time for county election officials to actually implement without, creating chaos on primary election day. So they rejected it for that reason. However, that's not the only time. Republicans have also been known to put other Democratic preferred election reforms in bills that had voter ID, and House Democrats shot them down for that reason. So this is really more of the same, except that this time House Republicans want to use a very parliamentary maneuver called a discharge resolution, which would kick a voter ID bill that's currently sitting in the state government committee out of committee without a vote and get it onto the House floor so that it could get consideration. House Republicans believe that there is bipartisan support there that could get the bill over to the Senate, where it's widely supported among Republicans. They need 25 Republicans and 25 Democrats to support a discharge resolution, which is going to be a harder thing to do, although Republicans are still optimistic about the chances.
Yeah, it seems like we've, in recent years, we've had a perennial issue where, Democrats might propose a compromise on voter ID, Republicans might propose a compromise on drop boxes or same-day voter registration. But it's like each side is kind of teasing each other with a preferred change, but wrapped up in something they don't want. So I guess, as the election approaches, we're, 6-7 months away at this point. Does it seem like any of these bills have much of a shot of becoming law, or is this just another volley in this back and forth that we've seen the past basically 6 or 7 years now on Pennsylvania's election laws?
This particular bill isn't going to happen in time for November. So constitutional amendments, as we've discussed heavily here at the Center Square over the last 2 years, they are a lengthy process that requires legislative approval in 2 consecutive sessions. So that would be a minimum of 2 years. So even if this bill theoretically made it all the way through the chambers, got approval by, let's say, June 30th, when the budget is due and right before lawmakers break for the summer, it still would have to pass another legislative session. And then it would have to go through advertising, and it has to go through the Attorney General's office to get wording just right. There's just a lot of these very technical steps that it has to go through. And if we misstep on any of those, like had happened back in 2021, then everything starts back to zero. That, in that particular case, there was an advertising error, and the constitutional amendment was for rolling back the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse litigation in civil court. So that was a huge issue that lawmakers have been trying to find an agreement on for the last 6 years. Democrats want to make a legislative change. Republicans say that is going to end them up in court because it's unconstitutional. So the fact that they were able to get this constitutional amendment in place and ready to be on the ballot, just 2 months before it was going to go into the primary election ballot, it had to be scrapped. So lawmakers are really reticent of that, and they're really focused on not only getting something like voter ID onto the ballot, but they will be very nervous about getting it all the way through the process. So it's definitely not something that's coming for November.
Kristen, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
Some people would call him a loser. He ran for state office. He was beaten. He started a business. He failed. He ran for Congress. He lost. He was nominated for vice president. he lost again. But he knew only those who never try are the real losers. And Abraham Lincoln was no loser. Persistence. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life. Add value